Mental illness is all around us, but it's not the pariah that it used to be in the past. We don't lock people away in sanitariums and throw away the key. It all depends on how we deal with it on a daily basis. I have made many videos on true crimes. I would say that most of the suspects had some form of mental illness. You'd have to for the horrible crimes that they committed. And on the other side, the families or the victims that survived, they could develop mental issues too. It sticks with many of us for most of our lives. People need to stop ignoring the issues and learn how to accept it, handle it, and do it on a logical and safe manner. One of these entities that needs to figure that out is law enforcement. Hello, I am Sean. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you're returning, then it's great to see you again. Twice a week, I research a true crime that I find interesting and tell you about it. I want to make sure that the victims are remembered. There's a lot of victims out there, and we need to remember them. Everyone knows who the serial killer is, but nobody can tell you who the victims are. And that's really, really sad. If you're not subscribed, please do so. It's free. If you want a membership for other benefits, that's an option too. And, if you ever have ideas for future true crime videos for me to do, please let me know. Just leave a message and I will look them up and possibly do them. Now on with today's true crime. This is going to be a touchy one. It's dealing with something that just occurred, and I am in no way accusing anyone of anything. I'm just telling you the facts as they were presented and stating possible solutions to a problem that happens quite often. I'm using research and other data to tell you about it. So that being said, let's begin. On February 6th, 2024, at around 1 p.m. in Columbus, Nebraska, police responded to the 3600 block of 29th Avenue for a welfare check on a 17-year-old boy that was possibly going to commit self-harm. I'm going to use the Nebraska State Patrol's press release. The male was inside the residence and was in possession of a knife. And this next part, I'm going to actually read it verbatim from their press release, because this, I would assume, is the order of events that occurred, since it came from the State Patrol. During the encounter, a Columbus police officer discharged their duty weapon, striking the subject. Another officer deployed a taser during the incident. The subject succumbed to injuries and was pronounced deceased at the scene. I've looked at so many sources, and everyone says duty weapon, then taser. Now, one source actually did say that both were fired simultaneously, and until more information comes out, no one's going to know. The State Patrol is investigating, and they have indicated that both officers have been placed on administrative leave. The teen's name has been released with the statement, and if you want to know, you can look it up. His name was Chase, but I'm not going to say the rest of it. And the police officers have not been named, which I don't know, I kind of find hinky, because there's a lot of cases that I watch the nightly news, and if there's a shooting involving police officers, usually they announce who the police officer is, total transparency, but Columbus Police Department's not being transparent by saying, hey, these are the two officers that were involved. I don't know if they're just trying to protect the officers or whatnot, but they were responding to a welfare check for a possible self-harm. I checked online, and there are so many police departments out there that have crisis officers to handle such a thing. There's many different tools that officers can use that are less lethal and can save lives and also protect the officers. Tasers, pepper spray, riot shields, beanbag guns, and K9 units can be effective too. I looked it up and I found policeforums.org, and in there they talk about S by cop. I don't want to say the S word because YouTube doesn't like that word, but it's S by cop. I'm going to refer to it as SBC because that's what they referred to it to. They state that police should not ever draw a duty weapon during these situations when somebody's talking about self-harm. They said that pointing a firearm at a person wanting to do self-harm increases their anxiety and could exacerbate the situation. I don't know. I think if I was standing there and having somebody pointing a gun at me, I would be freaking out too. There's better ways to handle it. If the officer states that they're there to help but points a weapon, it sends mixed messages. The officer should position themselves at a distance and use cover to protect themselves. Otherwise, this is where a shield would come into play, because if the suspect does try to attack the officer and they're holding a shield, that's going to block a knife attack and possibly be able to subdue the person. Now, I know, before anyone says it, I know that less lethal is not always 100% effective, and that's why police officers should have a plan B in these situations. A taser sometimes doesn't hit just right, so it doesn't affect them. So maybe pepper spray would slow them down. It's all about procedures and having them written down way before a situation happens. So then a 17-year-old child is not dead. So a family doesn't have to bury their senior high school student. Communication can be that officer's best friend when dealing with an SBC. Never bark orders at them. Be understanding. What can I do for you? I understand that you're upset. Things like that. Don't scream, put the knife down. You need to talk slowly and calmly when addressing the subject. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, we hear about many officers wanting to shoot first and ask questions later. This does not work with an SBC. That's why so many departments have employed crisis intervention teams, which are specifically trained with mental illness calls. In July of 2017, 29-year-old Zachary Bearheels was killed in Omaha, Nebraska, while in police custody. While in custody, he was shocked 12 times and punched in the head. He was in a mental crisis and wasn't completely there and would not stay down when the police officers kept shouting, "Stay down." So he kept getting up. Each time he got up, they'd shock him again. At one point, one of the officers actually grabbed him by his ponytail and drug him over to the police cruiser. I'm thinking that this was the one police officer that was completely terminated from the police force, I really think that, you know, uh, criminal charges should have came against the cop for using excessive force, but that's neither here nor there. Bear Heel's family ended up getting a large wrongful death settlement from the city. No matter what happens in this case, whether the officer was found to have done a just shooting or if the officer was found negligent, I really think that Chase's family needs to do this to the city also. Um, his death was not needed. And until the police department releases the officers' names and what actually happened, we can only speculate. But going off of the press release, it doesn't sound good. And this, I mean, this is coming from the state patrol. So they said duty weapon, taser, child died. I feel for this child. I feel for his family. I feel for his friends and the community as a whole. And yeah, I do feel for the police department. I know a number of the officers there, and there are some really good officers. And that's all I'm going to say is that there are some very good officers in that department. Doing my research for this, I came to realize that I actually know Chase's father. Him and I ran into each other occasionally when I lived there. He was a really nice guy. We would talk occasionally whenever we ran into each other. And I thought he was a really good guy. And my heart really goes out to him. And when I read the obituary, I mean, it really hurt because I have a child that's going to be turning 19 at the end of the month. So it really tugged at my heartstrings. And I couldn't imagine the pain that Chase's family's going through. And it could have just been an accident. It could have, I don't know. And I know that officer, if he did screw up, he's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life. His obituary's online, and he was a really good kid. My wife has spoken to some people that knew him, and they're heartbroken. They said that he's a smart kid, really good kid. He was just depressed. Uh, Ever since 2020, dealing with the health crisis that affected us all and having to do homeschooling and things like that, he got so depressed from this, which a lot of people did. A lot of kids did. A lot of adults got depressed during this. But he had been working with a healthcare professional to get better. And from everything that I've heard, he was looking forward to his future. He was planning a big vacation for him and his family this next summer and was starting to love life. So I don't think that this would have been an SBC. He might have just been having a little bit of a mental issue, which we've all had. At least I know I've had it. I know a lot of people that have. And I'm glad people didn't shoot me when I did have them. I really feel like this could have been preventable. I know today was supposed to be unsolved or missing, but I've been really wrestling with this in my head for the last week. And I thought, I have to do it. It's true crime no matter what. And I want the victims always remembered. So, doing this for Chase, be better, people. Do better. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Love you all. See you next time.